Then it was she decided there were different sorts of fathers. So after Kezia saw the MacDonald family and how their father played with them, she realized that there were different kinds of fathers. Suddenly, one day, mother became ill and she and grandmother had to go to the hospital. The little girl was left alone in the house with the cook. That was all right in the daytime. But while Alice, the cook, was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. That means when Alice, the cook, was putting Kezia to sleep, suddenly she started getting frightened. What will I do if I have a nightmare? A nightmare means a very frightful dream. She asked. She very often had nightmares. And then Granny takes me into her room. That means she's trying to tell us that whenever she had a nightmare, her grandmother would come and then take her to her own room. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks. And don't you scream and wake your poor pa. But the same old nightmare came. The butcher with a knife and a rope came nearer and nearer, smiling that cheerful smile. So she's explaining the nightmare. In the nightmare, in that very bad dream, she would see a butcher. A butcher is one who kills or slaughters animals. And she would see him with a knife in his hand and with a rope coming closer and closer towards her, while she could not move. She could only stand crying out, Grandma, Grandma. She woke shivering to only see father beside her bed. That means when she was shouting and screaming in her dream, her father heard her and he came into her room and was there by the side of her bed, a candle in his hand. What's the matter? He said. Oh, a butcher, a knife. I want Granny. He blew off the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arms, carrying her along the passage into his big room. A newspaper was on the bed. A half smoked cigar was near his reading lamp. He put away the paper and put the cigar into the fireplace. Then carefully tucked up the child. He lay down beside her, half asleep, still with the butcher's smile all about her. It seemed she crept close to him, snuggled her head under his arm, and held tightly to his shirt. All this shows us that Kezia was very, very frightened. Now, not frightened about her father, but frightened about the nightmare. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. Here, rub your feet against my legs and get them warm, said father. Tired out, he slept next to the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, and with no one to look after him. He was harder than grandmother, but it was a nice hardness. Every day he had to go to work and was too tired to be a Mr. MacDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writings. She stirred suddenly and sighed. To sigh means to feel sad or to cry. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream? Oh, said the little girl, my head's on your heart. I can hear it going. What a big heart you've got, father dear. So, Kezia finally realizes that her father is such a loving person. When she was alone and crying, her father comes, picks her up, holds her in his arms, and lets her sleep with him. Thank you, dear students.